So the computer use will grow expansively. There will be 1 billion plus programmers all programming in human language, dramatically increasing the scope of computers. Computers will adapt to humans, not humans to computers. Interesting starting point there.
It is, isn't it?
What does that make you think of, Marie? How do you think that as a reflection of the future?
When I think about it, I think about, futuristic worlds when you used to watch films on TV and they were set so far in the future that everything just looked so completely alien. You don't actually see how that could be. But then I actually start to think about the world we're in now and all the things that we have now that we didn't have, even 3 or 4 years ago, and the speed that things are changing. It also depends upon your, I'd say passion for technology, maybe that's the wrong thing, but your appetite for change. I love change. I'm inspired when I kind of see something that operates differently, that looks different, that is suggestive of where things might go in future. So I'm quite excited when I hear a statement like that. I'm excited to hear the word human and computer in the same sentence because I think that's really important. And I think a lot of negative press we get today because people see that technology replaces human, and I don't think that's actually the case at all. I think it just expands what a human is capable of doing. So for me, I think it's quite an exciting vision. I think it's something that's much, much closer to us than it's ever been. I think it's really hard to imagine a futuristic world now where you don't actually see elements of that in every day, whether it's self-driving vehicles or our interactions with each other, what we can do today that we couldn't do before, how medicine has completely changed. So super exciting.
Yeah, and for anyone old enough to remember, there's the Jetsons as something I was brought up on. That world, hover boots, maybe not yet,
Absolutely.
but certainly self-driving cars and the computer intelligence, etc., really is a compelling reality. I think when they talk about programming becoming something you can speak, so just everyone can do it.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts I had was whether there's some phrases in a language that can have more than one meaning. And so, the kind of the personal assistants that we've all speak to at the moment. I mean, I use mine for give me an egg timer, but I'm sure you're meant to do more complicated things than that. But I would have thought if everyone has the ability to pretty much program a machine, to their own voice or whatever they want, there might be a few unintended consequences for that as well.
I think it's quite fascinating, isn't it? I've got quite a strong accent, and I just find it amazing how, I don't know if you used Microsoft Teams Copilot when it records, and you see yourself back in words, and you think, how did it get that from what I said? But then I also think about my daughter, who's neurodiverse, and interacting with the human world is really difficult for her. And I actually think about how technology supports her, how it creates an environment she feels safer, where she's more able to achieve. So again, maybe I'm an eternal optimist, but I just think there's so much value coming from those things. I work in a global business, and we have to communicate in multiple languages around the world, and the ability to translate a message into people's generic language. And you know what? We might get a few words in that wrong, but actually we got 99% of those words right, and you got the context. You understood what we were trying to convey. So I think it's brilliant. I do think there'll be some challenges, absolutely. And I think we see those even now when we capture language into text, but I think it opens up an amazing world.
I agree with you, Marie, and I think I'm going to make a prediction that at the end of this session, both of us are going to probably declare ourselves as optimists. It's one of the things I've picked up along the way in certain approaches to technology. I'd also just like to say something. It's a bit profound, but it's kind of basically what you've just got me thinking. It's the 80th anniversary, I think, this year of the Holocaust and the terrible things that happened. And I just happened to be taking my daughter to school this morning, and there's a survivor, 92-year-old survivor on the radio. And he said, if there's one thing he wants humanity to remember, and that's that love is going to get us a lot further down the road than hate. Now, I know that's quite an unusual thing to say off the back of what you've just said, but this optimism and the looking at what that computer and what technology can do for us, I think there's a huge part of it is going to be how society harnesses it, and how, as a society, we either progress with a more of a harmony kind of approach, or if it's going to break into or splinter into lots of other much more challenging situations. And I think with this kind of ubiquity of this technology coming towards us, it's probably, maybe it's a lot about us being prepared to use it responsibly.
I couldn't agree more. I also think it's about, and I have a personal passion for this, but how we use our skills and where we add value. So we work in a professional organization, I work for Croda, but actually I also support a parenting mental health charity, and I support a Doncaster Mind charity, because I want to use my skills to give back a little. And I think that's on those people that have those great skills, those great capabilities, or those organizations that do amazing things, to actually spend some time giving that skill back and utilizing it for good. That's a wonderful thing that technology brings, isn't it? When you advance business, you actually advance society. So, and I love that. I think it's a privilege to have skills that do that.